concepts of object-oriented programming, a little more sophisticated than we just did. Basically, building off of or what makes object-oriented programming so advantageous to creating more sophisticated code. So to begin, I've created this package. Once again, I'm just using Hello World just as a default name. Or I've created essentially this project with a number of packages. So again, the SRC folder, you can see there's analysis, data, hello, and loading folder. So now it has some various code. I'm going to go into this data folder to show you some different things going on. First, notice in this code, I open data and I go into essentially the object called child data, or not the object, but rather the actual module called child data. So in this module, I have some different references going on. What's called utilizing a kind of reference system using the from and import keywords to reference a module as well as objects within modules. I'll explain why that's important in a moment. So what's going on here, import, is referencing something called data object, and it's coming from essentially a module called data object. So from references the module, import references, in this case, the actual object. I could also even go get the method potentially, the specific methods in those objects. So let's go look at what data object might be. So if you look in the code that I've opened, this data folder, you will see that there's basically something called module called data object, which is referenced here. So I go to it, and so there's a class within it called data object. So data object, as you can see, is referenced here. So data object is basically a generic class I've created a priori that references some variables. You can see it has an init, x and y, so it's instantiating some x and y variables. It has some methods, essentially referencing a return value as well as a set value for different inputs. Let's ignore data object for a moment and go back to where we were earlier. Okay, so let's go back to child data. So in child data, you will see that a class is called child data. It's being created, and it references the data object. So this referencing of data object is basically